Hey everyone, it's Tom here, and on today's video I want to talk about time spent trading during the day. A question I get asked all the time is, Tom, do I need to spend 8-9 hours a day in front of the screen every day to become a successful trader? And whereas there are going to be traders that are really successful that are spending all day trading, that's not the norm. We don't have to be spending the full day there in front of the screens. As a matter of fact, I don't. A lot of traders I speak to and work with don't either. So there are other options. And basically, that's what I want to cover today. I want to go through and show you the times that are good to trade, the kind of balance that I think is healthy for most traders as well, and we'll cover how realistic it is to be spending hours in front of the screen every day trading. So let's get into it. Just very quickly before we dive in, if you're still struggling with your trading, or you'd like to know more about how mechanical edges are traded, I've put together a free video course for you that will map out and explain everything in detail, along with walking you through exactly how the mechanical rules actually work. If you'd like to watch that after this video, I'll pop a link in the description. You can click through and you can watch that straight away. So let's start by talking about the main hours that we want to focus on as a trader. So I've got Baby Pips open here. It's a website that gives you a lot of great tools. We've covered them on previous videos, but I want to focus on their currency market time zone converter tool. It's a bit of a mouthful, but basically what this is showing you is when are the sessions live between the different regions in the world, and kind of that links into, when's the most liquidity there. If you've watched that liquidity video, you'll understand what I'm talking about here. And so I've got it here. This is in UK time. I'm recording this on a Friday evening, so you can see we're just coming towards the end now. The downward slope of the US session here in New York. We finished the London session. Obviously, we're quite a way off the two Asian sessions here in Sydney and Tokyo. So this is already giving you a good idea. And so when we're looking at this kind of information, it's good to say as a trader, depending on where you are in the world, what sessions can you target? For example, if you're in the UK or if you're in Europe, on those time zones, maybe you'd want to start in the morning on the London session and trade all the way through to the New York session. Well, they're both available for you, but we're talking about their 8 a.m. or pre-8 a.m. all the way through to 9 p.m. UK time. That's a full day. That's more than a full day, which is just unsustainable. So what do we do in terms of finding a balance here? And can we take slices of these sessions and make the most use of them? So let's say, you've got an idea of when you'll be consistently free during the day to trade. And hopefully you can find one of those key market sessions where you might have a bit of time. So for example, let's say we're in the UK and you say, okay, I've probably got an hour or two on a morning. I won't have any time in the afternoon to trade the US session. And it's the middle of the night for the Asian session, so it's not really feasible for me to look at that. So my best option is to trade potentially before work and have a look at, say, between 7 and 9 a.m., for example, in the UK. What can I do with that time available, and is that feasible to trade? So if we come over here, we're on the Euro USD. I'm just picking a popular Forex pair there, and I've got on the hourly chart to kind of show you how that volume and the trading activity correlates with what we saw in the previous section, which was when the market sessions are live. And you can see, if we go down to even today, it starts to ramp up at 7-8 a.m. And it's quieter, obviously, in those pre-market sessions. In the Asian session, there is a little bit of volume there, but it's not massive. We would expect major Forex pairs to have that boost in volume when the UK, when London opens. And you'll get an extra little boost here, you can see, when we get to the US session. So this is obviously a good thing to check in. So you might say, okay, well, initially I can see that, 7 a.m. here, maybe through to a bit of 8 a.m., I could take a trade. So once we've found those times, then what we need to do is to say, okay, well, what can we actually do in those times? You'll have seen traders go, we need to be at the screen all the time. We need to be looking through for opportunities throughout the day. Well, that's good if you're into that style of trading, but mechanical trading, the trading that we do here at WB Trading, doesn't rely on that. It requires focus to find our trading opportunity, but once we're in it, that's it. And we're looking for very specific opportunities through the day. So let me talk you through a little bit about how that works and how much time that can potentially cut out of your trading. So if you've only got maybe an hour and a bit free on a morning, then trading on the hourly chart or anything higher than that, any higher time frame charts, it's not really going to be feasible because we're going to get very few opportunities. What we want to do is give ourselves the best opportunity to find a potential entry, and therefore if you've got a limited amount of time, one of the key focus areas is to drop down to a lower time frame. So let's say, we have these 2 hours here that are free. 2 candles is not really enough in terms of finding consistent opportunities to trade. So let's drop down to, say, the 5-minute chart. And suddenly what we find is, if we go back to this period here between 7 and 9, we've got quite a few candles that we can start to look at opportunities for. And so we've got more entry points potentially. We can be more specific in terms of what we're looking for as a potential entry, which is where mechanical trading comes in a little bit more. And therefore we can give ourselves a better chance of finding trades each day in that time that we can trade. And yet there are going to be opportunities after 9 a.m. potentially through the day, but if we can't trade them, that's not going to be our focus there. So can we build something out of those first hour and a half, first 2 hours, whatever it's going to be in the day? To give you kind of a real world example of this, I've come over to one of the most popular markets that our traders use, which is the DAX, the German 40 index. And I'm just going to show you an example from today about where we would have got into a trade and what would have happened once we're in that trade. So as part of the rules for what we call our price reversion strategy, our entry point in the DAX would have been here at 7 a.m. This would have been the signal, and part of this, obviously we would explain in our course how we find these particular entry candles, but this gave us basically the right information to say that's a trade that we want to take. And in terms of that trade, once we place it based on mechanical rules, that is essentially it for us. We don't need to be on the chart anymore. Just as a reference point, this trade closed out for a profit at 8 a.m. Wasn't a huge profit, but it was a small win, which is a good day. Well, good way to finish the week, certainly. And essentially, once the trade was placed, that was it for us. We didn't have to stick around for any future profits to be hit. It does it automatically. Obviously, we set our stop loss, we set our profit. Now, I've talked about this before on videos. We talk about always having a stop loss in place, but part of the mechanical process is to always have a profit in place as well. And therefore, once you place the trade, that is your work done. You don't need to do any management. We don't adjust anything. We don't move profits around. We don't move stop losses around. You should never really move your stop loss around anyway, unless you're moving it towards, say, break even. But as part of the general mechanical rules, once we get our trade open, that is it. So in terms of actual time on the screen this morning for the DAX, I start looking for the setup. I start getting prepared at about 6:40, 6:45, just making sure I understand what I'm looking for, the exact type of candle. Once it appears, which I would start looking for those candles at 7 a.m. Once that appears, as soon as that candle is valid, I'll take the trade. I've already identified my profit and my stop loss zones way back here, pre-market time. So once that's done, that's it. I can close the chart down. I can walk away. I can go to another strategy, one of our other morning strategies, to have a look for a potential entry. But my work here on the DAX is complete. And I will let it play out and obviously collect the result later in the day when I do my journaling. And that's the same for other markets as well. So this could be the same on our other strategies for currency pairs, so pound dollar, pound yen, a couple of popular markets that we do a very similar process on in the London Open. We have a look at S&P and Dow Jones on the New York Open, and for the similar basically the same way we would trade the DAX here on the London Open. So again, that's a point of checking around the New York Open, waiting for a particular candle to appear which signifies an entry for us, and then placing the trade and leaving the chart. So usually we'll get a trade very quickly on those two markets as well. So part of this mechanical process, and part of why trading for 8-9 hours a day isn't the only way to approach it, is to have this set and forget approach. Find the exact entry you need. You don't need to manage the trade while it's open. We place the trade using the rules that we've defined, and we let it play out. Let's look at another scenario though. And what if you say, okay, Tom, sounds good if I can trade at those times, but I can't hit the London Open, I can't hit the New York Open, I can't hit the Tokyo or the Sydney Open. For whatever reason, that might be fine. You might be working full time. You start too early in the day to get a trade in on the European Open if you're in Europe or if you're in the UK. And basically you can't hit any of those other sessions. So what can I do? Okay, a little bit different approach here. what we would focus on there is to look at options on a higher time frame. So I know we talked about a little earlier in the video avoiding the higher time frame, because it doesn't give you as many opportunities. But if we combine the higher time frame with order placements, then we can make it work as an effective strategy. And a couple of our strategies in our WB trading course work like this. What we do is we look for signals and we look for potential candles on an evening, for example, on the higher time frame. So for example, here we're on the pound dollar on the hourly time frame. I would actually go up to the daily to look for my opportunities on these strategies. And essentially, if I can identify an ideal place that I want to get a trade placed, what we'll actually do is to place an order. So then when the market reopens the next day and the market returns to that particular price that I've identified based on the rules that we lay out in the course, then I can get into that trade automatically. And that's even less work because I don't actually have to be on the chart when the market hits that price. Because I've placed an order, the broker will execute that trade for me. So in effect, say for one of our strategies, I'll usually spend 15 to 20 minutes on the evening planning out these trades, looking for opportunities. If there are none there, then okay, we don't place any orders. We only place them if all of our criteria, all of our rules are met. But it allows me to do it with a bit more flexibility. And for a lot of our traders that are that are working full time or they have other commitments, they only have maybe an hour or so on the evening, then this gives them an opportunity to place trades ready for the next day or the next couple of days without the stress of having to constantly go back and forward to check those charts. So an alternative way of trading. There is no ideal way, as I said, but very different to how we would look at getting into those entries on session opens and being more precise there. So those are a couple of the ways that our traders manage their trading throughout the day to essentially ensure that we don't have to be sitting at the screens, for a full 8 or 9 hours a day. Now, some of our traders do sit there for fairly long periods of time. They'll trade a couple of the session opens, they'll trade some of their own strategies potentially, and then they'll trade on the evening to look for orders that they can place. But the point is that with mechanical trading, we've got the choice there. We've got the option to have a look at certain times during the day when we know we're going to be always available, or focus on times or styles of trading, like with the order placements, where we can add that bit of flexibility in and trade around other circumstances. We should always be trying to make sure that we fit trading around our lives. We don't fit our lives around trading, because that's when traders lead to burnout, they lead to frustration, they miss opportunities, the inconsistency creeps in, and it just generates problems. It's always better to start out by trading for a fairly kind of small period of time per day and build up from that to try and understand what it actually takes to be focused. And that's another thing, when we speak to traders that are trading for 8 or 9 hours a day at a time, the focus is really difficult to maintain. That takes months, if not years, to prepare for. And so shorter bursts of trading, while some traders might say, you're missing out on opportunities through the sessions. Okay, but we are targeting specific areas in the sessions. And for, as I said, the majority of our traders, myself included, that's enough in terms of trading opportunities. So thank you all for watching. If you've got any questions, you can always book a call with one of our team to find out how our strategies work, and the links are in the description below. Other than that, appreciate your time, and hopefully I'll see you on our next video. Take care.